I think you need to be very much consumer-centric in your approach. This is a key element that we learn at business school or in the books, but it is true today. You have to put the consumer at the real center of your approach.
Rodrigue, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Emilia.
If you could spend a little minute to tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up in this wonderful world of prestige beauty.
Yes, in fact, I started my career in Hong Kong, where I discovered the power of skincare as part of daily life. You have to understand that in Asia Pacific, skincare is not just a category, it's a real culture. And that's what made me move into cosmetics. So later on, I joined Guerlain, where I experienced sensoriality through fragrances and quality through skincare. And that's what drove me into skincare prestige, that combination of science and experience. And today at Payot, we can find this exact balance where the brand is deeply rooted into sensoriality, but also very much driven by high formulation and expertise.
So let's talk about skincare. It's become one of the strongest engines in beauty. Everybody knows, in most of the regional hubs, it's booming. From your perspective, what do you think is making this category so powerful today?
Prestige skincare is very powerful today because the consumers are much more informed. They are much more demanding. They are looking for quality. They are looking for accessibility of the brand. They are looking for transparency. And I believe that prestige skincare is replying, answering this demand through proven results, through efficacy, through strong formulations. So I believe that indeed this is what people are looking at when they are looking at prestige skincare.
And do you feel this consumer is buying, when they're buying prestige skincare, that they're buying into something beyond the product itself?
People are in fact looking at the true root of a brand, the cause of a brand. Some people say people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I believe this is very true in skincare. At Payot, we believe that skincare is not just about appearances, it's about self-confidence. That when someone feels comfortable within their own skin, it creates this je ne sais quoi, that subtle glow that comes from within. So our role as a brand is very simple, to help women feel stronger and feel better with their own skin and therefore with themselves. Through products, sensorial experiences, Payot helps to enhance that feeling of confidence.
I love that. And probably the channel that you're operating in is helping with that. So let's talk about the distribution. Obviously, you're operating through professional channels with controlled access, expert recommendations at the fingertips. What do you think that model creates for the consumer that maybe the open distribution model doesn't?
Yeah, I think that this model creates credibility because you are working with trained therapists that know about the skin, they know about how to treat it, and they are able to give guidance to the client. So beyond product, people are also looking into what they put on their skin, and more than just ingredients, how to the formula or the formulation of the product is helpful for their skin.
Why do you think exclusivity and expert-led access is still relevant today?
Because even though the client is very much informed and very much demanding, in fact, they are still looking for guidance by experts as a filter. And then they make their own choice. The consumer today like to be independent. However, they still need this expertise, and it is through the expert, the trained therapist, that they can get it. Now, I would not necessarily speak about exclusivity, but more about selectivity. How, in fact, you align your brand desirability across different channels.
Have you ever felt that selectivity has limited your growth in any way?
It is indeed a very interesting question. I think it's not about limiting growth, it's about curating access to the brand. And I think this is also elevating the brand by only directed through experts.
We mentioned French heritage already, and I feel like French skincare has long been the global standard. You know, the formulation expertise, as you mentioned, treatments, the rituals, the clinical credibility, as you say. Do you think that, you know, now with the onset of a lot of different, like we've got Korean beauty and a lot of other, I guess, place of origins that are coming into play, do you think that that authority from the French heritage is still automatic today, or does it need to actively be re-earned?
Indeed, French heritage is still very relevant today. French skincare has brought a lot of the top leaders in the world of cosmetics across mass market, pharmacy segment, professional segment, or luxury segment. So companies like L'Oréal dominate these still today. However, as you said, we have seen the emergence of new beauty, like Korean beauty, which is bringing new dimensions, speed, and active formulations. We have also the A-beauty that is that we talk about a lot today. So I believe that French skincare or French heritage is no longer enough as an authority, but that it is still relevant as a backup for elegance and strong formulation. French skincare will continue to be there.
If you had to pick one thing as a very pointed question, what do you feel is signaling credibility to consumers today in a very global and competitive market?
Brand credibility, trust is very important in the consumer today, and we have to stay authentic to our roots. So. Having a brand that like Payot that has been in the market for more than 100 years bring this credibility. I often like to say that we will be there in 100 years. I won't, but the brand will still be. And I think this trust that has been created over time with the trained therapists, with experts on the market, is what brings the consistency of the brand in the mind of consumers. So I think this is very important above trends or influence. I believe that trust creates the quality over time.
And do you find, you know, we talked about professional distribution feeling, you know, smaller, but actually it's the expert approval that's probably helping the credibility on the flip side of the coin as well. Would you agree?
Yes, I do feel that today consumers, as I said, are much more informed, much more alert, and they know about ingredients. They know, or they think they know sometimes about formulations. They also look for guidance, and they need to be surrounded by experts to comfort their choice, or to be delivered the right message or the right application, the right ritual, the right way to put the product on the skin.
Okay, so let's talk about the consumer a little bit more. When someone chooses a prestige skincare brand today, what do you think they're actually looking for? And could you tell me if you believe there is perhaps a particular kind of consumer over-indexing in this category?
So today, I don't think there is one specific particular consumer that is over-indexing. I think even the wealthy consumers are looking into value for money products, and they are very much attached to what the brand is delivering as a message and what the product is really efficient for.
Okay, so let's talk about digital, particularly when we talk about in-person experiences. I feel like in the beauty industry, especially right now, there's a new brand launching every day, you know, with social media and influencers. Can you tell me, in your opinion, in that context, what role does expert-led recommendations still play?
Very interesting question. Expert-led still play a very important role, but a different one than before. Before, it was the starting point of the journey of the consumer. And today, people are much more influenced by content creation, by social media. As you said, the world is much faster in skincare. 20 years ago, we had one, maybe 10 brands every year. Today, it's one day, one brand, as you said. So it is very fast-paced, and the consumer is very overwhelmed. The quality of the guidance is very important, and people are looking into expert guidance because otherwise they are lost with what they can see on social media. So there will still be a need, but it's at a different time of the journey of the consumer.
And have you seen an impact, I guess, in terms of the consumer base that you have with the onset of digital, say with the younger generation? Is there more coming into the brand? Are you seeing some kind of evolution with the younger generation?
Of course, we are also looking at the consumer of today. Our base of client is maybe the woman of 35 and plus who is looking for specific needs. But the younger consumers are very different in how they approach cosmetics. First of all, they arrive much earlier than the previous generation into cosmetics. They are looking into ingredients. They sometimes know, they sometimes believe they know, but again, at some point of time, they need a peer recommendation or expert advice on how to use the product and what is the benefit of the formula more than the ingredient itself. So I believe as a brand, it's very important to educate our consumer. And for the consumer, the young consumers are going into Payot for the benefit of the brand that is concerning their skin. We have products for acne-prone skin. So we have products and ranges for all skin types and all skin age.
Do you feel that this consumer, the younger consumer, you mentioned it a little bit there already. Do they still want to be guided, or are they becoming, very self-directed versus the older consumer base?
The consumer are very independent today. They want to feel that they own their journey. However, at some point of their journey, they will need the guidance from the expert, and they will look for, whether it is through social media, through content generated on digital, they will look for this guidance from the experts. So in the end, they still need to be expert-led.
How do you compete with the influencer-led brands today?
Well, I believe that today we are in a world of fast cosmetics, in an era of fast cosmetics, where indeed people will communicate heavily on social media. But I believe that also consumers are looking, or they need to go through slow skincare. Those traditional brands that have passed centuries in researching formulas that are good for the skin and that are reassuring in the way they are being used.
Speaking of competition, so from a market leadership perspective, is it hard today to maintain a strong differentiation position? And you touched on it a little bit there, in prestige skincare specifically versus, say, 10 years ago? Because you've been in the game for a while. What's the big difference?
Yes, it is not necessarily more difficult, but it's more complex. We used to be in a very linear type of consumer path. People would go to the brick and mortar doors, get the advice from the beauty advisor, and that was the end of the journey. Today, indeed, there is an overwhelming content, and the consumer is exposed to a multiple access and multiple touch points. So today, it's more about how do you align and how do you make your all these touch points legitimate for your consumers.
What, in your opinion, has become harder, building a brand or protecting it?
I've always worked for French heritage brands, so my aim has always been towards protecting the brand equity, or more than protecting it, redefining it without losing its root. So for me, it would be much more difficult to create a brand today, but we see that brands are being created every day. So obviously, there's no magic also behind some of these brands. But yeah, for me, protecting the brand is where I'm more at ease with.
For our marketers at home, so obviously the podcast is here for luxury marketers, I always like to ask a practical question.
Yes.
If somebody's managing a beauty brand today, it could be a French luxury brand or another one. What's one tip when we're on that topic of, protecting and building a brand? What's one tip you would give them to keep an eye on, or, something practical that they should absolutely be making sure they're doing today?
Simplicity in your message, working really the reason why of your branding. What do you really want to bring to the market, to the consumer? I think you need to be very much consumer-centric in your approach. This is a key element that we learn at business school or in the books, but it is true today. You have to put the consumer at the real center of your approach. So this is your reason why that you have to work on.
We talk a lot about market and consumer intelligence on this show to guide you towards that understanding of your consumer. How much data versus intuition? And this is a big one. I ask all my luxury professionals and executives this one. Could you tell me how much data you are using, or how much, versus relying on intuition in the way you approach your brand?
It's a great combination of both, clearly. We are in a professional market. That means we are lacking a lot of data. We don't have necessarily the sellout of what a beautician is selling through our beauty salon. So we are in a very emotional business. So intuition is still a very big part. Now, of course, in order to anticipate the need of the consumer, we have also to track and to look at the data to see the track records of what's performing best. And this is where, indeed, data is very important, and where also the universe in which we are now in, with all the digital sales and online sales, we can be fed with much more data than we were in the past in the professional market.
Thinking, about the future of the category, what do you think will define the next generation of prestige skincare brands in, say, the next, 5-10 years or more?
The brand which will have been able to remain with their own DNA, their brand equity, while still going towards anticipating the needs of what the consumer will be tomorrow. So it will have obviously to be very technology-driven, whether it is in formulation or in data analysis, using the AI in front of the crowd, and but always putting the consumer at the very first attention to bring the latest technology, the latest formulation to the consumers. I think this is what really will guide or will bring the next generation of companies in the skincare sector.
I'm going to ask you about AI because everybody's talking about AI. What's your position on what role AI can play for you in your business or your category?
Well, I think we are just at the very start of an era that is around AI. So I think it is very compatible with cosmetics, even though we are very product-led, we like to touch, it's very emotional, whereas AI is quite the opposite. But there is a lot that can be done with AI, and in terms of speeding processes, in terms of in fact, being more human with our clients. So I think skincare companies need to work with AI deeply.
Do you see any specific areas where you can think straight away it's the biggest opportunity to incorporate AI?
Marketing intelligence, because the more people use AI, the more we feed the artificial intelligence. So the more, of course, the content will be or the data will be there. Advanced in terms of technologies, because indeed we know the ingredients that work. The most important is indeed how to put the formulas in. So we will always need the laboratory, the research and development, but we know that AI can speed the process of formulation and make the life of research easier.
Okay, so we're coming closer to the end. We normally like to wrap up with some signature questions and some mentor style questions. But before we do, is there anything else on the topic that you'd like to mention in terms of, where the category is going, or anything that we haven't really touched on yet that you'd like to mention?
I think we are in a very interesting time. I came into cosmetics because I had this belief that skincare is not aging, in fact. It's a category that will continue growing. But it's a category that has been also dramatically evolving in the past decade, and that is today entering into a new era of speed. So I think it's a very interesting time to be in skincare. So I can only invite more people to join this fantastic industry. It has many great years in front of us, and we are just in the middle of reshaping the future of skincare. So it's a very interesting timing today.
What do you feel is the evolution coming, again, thinking about the future with the professional channel? Any predictions on what might change there?
Because consumers are much more informed and much more independent in their way of consuming, in fact, brands need to be also on their path of on their consumer journey. Okay, so we'll still need the professional, as I said, for the expertise, for the advice from the expert, from the trained therapist. This is crucial in the evolution of skincare, in the way we educate consumer, because indeed, again, a consumer can be lost in misusing ingredients, and this can do more harm than good. So professional beauty, this human approach, and this human interaction will still be very, very important tomorrow. Now, it will not be self-sufficient per se in order to touch the consumer that can be interested by products or by skincare, by prestige skincare.
Anybody looking to launch a brand, do you actually recommend starting with the professional channel? Is there more success entering that way?
Today, the market is very fragmented. So every market has its own specific approach. So if you want to enter the professional market, you need to have that specific angle to be able to speak with the therapist, the beauty salon owner. I think it has to be in the brand DNA itself. Whether it is a recommendation to start with the professional segment, yes, I think there is in the professional segment still a market for new brands that are maybe more attached to the codes of the younger generation. But yes, every market has its own segment, and the professional market is very specific. So if you are to start a new brand in the specific market, in this case, you have to really focus on what is a beauty salon, who is prescribing your products.
And I love your answer there about the DNA, because Payot is quite famous for all the techniques, and Dr. Payot was well ahead of her time. There has to be a reason for you to be there, right? Like there's got to be a need for your product to be actually, delivered through expert technique.
Yes, completely. I mean, Nadia Payot herself was one of the first female doctors of her time, and she created her own beauty salon also to demonstrate the products and how to deliver the best product that she had herself created. So it was an interesting time. We are in the 1920s in Paris, so and more than 100 years ago, indeed, she started in her own beauty salon, creating her own formulas and delivering it directly to the client. In fact, she reduced the chain of the consumer journey in just one single shell. That's very interesting indeed.
A real pioneer. And, I realize a lot of the French heritage luxury maisons, regardless of the category, there's always a pioneer.
Yes.
That was spearheading the brand.
No, clearly. And Nadia Payot, very soon, she believed that skincare should be the combination of science, techniques, and overall well-being. And this philosophy led her to invent what we now call the facialist approach. She's the one who invented the facialist approach.
I love the French. You invented everything. Okay, so let's go to the signature question. So thinking about your younger self, again, this is more advice for our listeners. What's one piece of advice you might give somebody starting in either luxury or beauty?
I think looking back, in my particular case, is how to be more patient, maybe, because when you start your career, you want to do things fast, you want to deliver results, you do things with the speed of the market, especially today, I would say, as we said, it's even faster. We are overwhelmed with all the interconnections of all the different platforms and the online, the offline. But in fact, brands which are still today existing, have been created over time. In fact, you don't need to that much speed. You just need to pause and to reflect, to think about indeed the reason why. Why are you doing it? Why is this brand existing? And what exactly do you want to deliver to the market? I think these are the very important questions that you need to answer first before launching yourself on the market.
Yes, patience is dwindling, I think, with the digital age. And what about starting a career in luxury from scratch? Any tips on how to get into this world or even into the world of beauty? Because it's very competitive and hard to enter.
Very competitive, very hard to enter. Today, we are also every day questioned or requested about demands, people are willing to enter the market. So I think increase the curiosity, the human approach, because today emails, we are overwhelmed with emails, so we need the physical contact. So I often say, take the traditional way of calling the person, of course, getting this interaction with the leaders of the market today in order to see what exactly people need. We need people with multifaceted aspects, and I think it's just this human connection that helps people identify what exactly is the need of the companies today.
I love that answer because I feel like the younger generation, the ones graduating now, are being told to focus so much on digital technical skills that we're forgetting to tell them to be human and the soft skills.
But that's exactly right. And I think AI has to be used as a tool. Not as an end, and where I believe that indeed you need AI to establish to structure your speech, to structure your curriculum vitae, to structure your approach to the companies you're aiming at. At the end of the day, what makes the difference is indeed your soft skills, your communication skills, your capacity to discuss and your capacity to solve problems. And this is only the human approach that can bring it real.
So what's one thing you would tell a young person who's graduating to go and do today?
Believe in yourself, continue increasing your curiosity, continue informing yourself, and believe that you have a lot to bring to generations like mine. So you have to believe in yourself, clearly.
Okay, so my very last question, and it's about the prestige beauty consumer. What's one thing that you see people overlook all the time about this consumer?
Well, for me, it's two things. One, from the brand perspective, is the brand equity, and it's very important to preserve or to make deep research on the brand equity. I think we touch on that, and from a consumer point of view, indeed, it's from the brand has to really put the consumers first at the real center point of any decision. Is who am I going to reach? How am I going to reach them? Is what I'm doing today helping in reaching what the consumer wants? It's really the basis.
And what's one thing, in your opinion, that people would be surprised to learn about the prestige beauty consumer or the category?
At the end of the day, it's a company's world. So behind prestige houses, it's a whole company. So it's all about indeed working as also a family. In fact, what I have seen is in those maisons is how a family spirit is important in order to elevate each individual in the house. So I think this is the very surprising factor.
Do you know, I've never realized that. Now that you've said that, the experience, the elevating everybody across the maison, the feeling of the maison almost, when you start working for a heritage maison, like you're entering a family. I'd never noticed that before. You're so right. That's a really good insight. Okay, so well, I guess we've come to the end. Thank you so much. I know you're super busy. It's been super insightful. It's a very sought after industry and growing. So we're very privileged to have had you here today. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you so much, Emilia. Thank you for inviting me.
If you found today's conversation valuable, please share it with a friend or colleague in the luxury world who would benefit too. We'd also like to invite you to join our email community for exclusive tools, behind-the-scenes content, and early access to new resources. Just head to luxconsumeriq.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.